Hello and welcome to another episode of the Opportunity Podcast. I'm your host, Gael, the head of marketing over at Empire Flippers. And today I am talking to Gael Breton, a very good friend of mine. He runs Authority Hacker with my other good friend, Mark Webster. And we have a pretty free range conversation here on one, how does the Authority Hacker business work? Because I think it's a very interesting business. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, people like you out there listening, building out content sites, could learn a lot from this just from the course aspect, because courses are a great way to monetize your website even further than, say, just display as an affiliate, because you actually own the offer. And if you heard me on a lot of podcasts before, you probably know I say this, but I think, and I truly believe, the biggest priority of any business is one, to make money, is your net profit. But the second biggest priority is owning as much of the customer data as possible and as much of the customer lifetime cycle as possible. And with affiliate, you really lose out on the bottom of the funnel aspect of that, with ads even more so in a sense. But by having your own offer, you can really create a very attractive asset over a long period. So I talked to Gail about that. And then towards the latter half of the podcast, we will be getting more into SEO and affiliate and how does that shape me up, including at the end, we talk a little bit about the future of AI. We kind of talk about AI throughout this whole podcast. I mean, if you're into SEO, you're probably talking about AI at the moment, or really any kind of marketing. But this is a very fun conversation. So I will stop talking and we will get in it. But before I do, you might hear, like you're probably hearing, might maybe hearing some of it right now. There is a storm happening in Vietnam. So like right before I got on the phone with Gail, I like, hold on one second, I run to my balcony and got a bunch of stuff off of the table before this absolute monsoon passed by. So you might hear some storm, might hear some lightning. We'll try to edit that out, but apologies in advance. All right. With that said, let's get into the interview with Gael Breton. See you on the other side. All right. I am here with the man, the myth, the legend, Gael Breton from Authority Hacker. It's good to finally have you on. I'm actually kind of surprised I've never reached out to you to come onto this podcast. You and I have been friends for years at this point. So, Gail, I'm excited to welcome you to the best, lowest download podcast in the world. Your exposure is about to skyrocket. You're welcome.
Okay. Well, at least
You're
you're
welcome.
building up
It's been an honor.
expectations.
Yeah. But for any of my audience who doesn't somehow already know who you are, give me a brief background so they're informed on you.
We started building an agency together with my business partner, Mark. We actually were an SEO agency for like 4 years. That was in 2011. We grew this agency to like around 30 staff. We were kind of the back end for a bunch of bigger agencies. We were in Hungary and back end for bigger agencies that would work with big clients. So we worked on big projects like Expedia, Macy's, 99 Design, etc. Like made our hand like actually doing the grunt work basically for about 4 years. And then we got tired of it, to be honest, like the client life and having to justify every decision you make, etc. And we felt like we were maybe underutilized in our potential because we couldn't do what we wanted on the sites we were working on. And for good reasons, it was the client's websites. And we decided to start our own websites. And so we started doing that. We did quite well at that. When the site started doing quite well, we decided to sell the agency. So we sold the agency and focused full time on building websites. So we did that, and then a little bit after we sold the agency, we started a website called Authority Hacker. And really the goal was to kind of like share like a lot of the stuff that we learned during these 4 years as an agency and share the stuff that we were doing to build our sites. And we had a bit of a different take because we were not necessarily in the industry very much at the time. We started, from this agency background, working on these other projects and doing that. And so like we thought it would be interesting to share that. So we've kept doing that for a long time, and everything has grown since then, basically. And Authority Hacker now has over 12,000 students for the paid courses. And to be honest, Authority Hacker is our main focus now. We're still running a portfolio of sites, but at this point, like Authority Hacker has become like a pretty big training company. So it takes a lot of our time, and we tend to pass on other projects to like staff, etc., and focus a lot on that right now. So that's pretty much the background without going too much into the details.
Well, let's get into those details.
All right, go for it. I guess you'll have the rest of the podcast for that,
Yeah, I'm a big fan of what you and Mark have done over at Authority Hacker. I've been following you guys for years. You guys are one of two SEO courses I recommend all the time. Like, there's more than two good SEO courses, obviously, but I feel like you and our buddy Diggity, that you guys have like some of the best stuff that's so comprehensive to take someone from newbie to expert. I usually tell people to start with your course because Diggity's course can get a little bit advanced quick. But yeah, I love what you guys have built. So I want to focus a little bit on the course business itself with the Authority Hacker,
Okay.
because like you come on and talk about SEO a lot, but my audience, while there is a lot of SEOs, there's also people making courses or dreaming of creating a course with their content site. So I think it's an interesting business model monetization.
It's something we don't talk very much about as well. It's interesting. Like, yeah, you hear us talk about SEO, and we still do a lot of SEO, etc. Like, and even like Autorika itself is like an SEO player and so on. So we do a lot of that. But really love the funnel side of things. Actually, I really enjoy that part of the
Yeah,
business. Actually,
you and I have had many talks over beer. It's like about our SEO friends. They forget about this whole thing called marketing once
yeah,
they rank a
yeah.
website.
It just feels like people work so hard on traffic, and then they're like, "I'll just put some ads on it, and then that's fine." And then it's like,
Yeah,
you could probably do a bit better. And sometimes, there's diminishing return on everything you do. At some point, you kind of like you grow fast at the beginning, you have all these low hanging fruits, and then eventually, like you run out of easy keywords or whatever, and it's like
yeah.
harder and harder to get more traffic. And whereas your business model is still like at this beginning where there's all these other low hanging fruits, and your growth curve could be much faster if you actually switching gears and focusing on your business model.
For sure. I think it's this is a little bit off track, but kind of related and something you and I have talked about. I think it's a bit of a tragedy almost that our SEO friends are so focused on display ads and affiliate. Like there's nothing wrong with that. I love that business model. I think it's great. But
Yeah,
there's so much opportunity to take that high intent traffic and own your own offer, whether it's a course or e-commerce product, whatever. Like I like why do you think that a lot of SEOs don't do that? That's not a question
I
on my
think it
list.
depends on the
It's
niche as
honest.
well. You can't do it in every niche, right? Think
True.
about like if you're doing like a vacuum cleaner website or something. Well, unless you launch a vacuum cleaner, it's like I don't think a course on how to vacuum carpets is gonna sell a lot, for example.
Don't you assume
So,
that, I'd buy a course about vacuum cleaning. I'm terrible about it.
well, you could, to be honest, there's like a whole movement on TikTok called Clean Talk where people just share cleaning tips, basically. So you could potentially do that if you broadened up a bit your niche, basically, like not just talk about vacuum cleaning, etc. I just think it's just a lack of skill set and knowledge about this. I think there's been lots of case studies on affiliate sites doing well, but fewer case studies on like sites that grow their own products doing well that have been made public. And I think the people who do that are too busy making money to share that. So,
So true.
so yeah,
I often joke the person who makes the most is the person you have no idea is even in business for
yeah.
themselves.
100%. In Shanghai ACO, I always like hang out in the corridor and just people like they listen to a podcast or they come talk to me, etc. And they share the craziest stories. And I'm like, who is that person? And it's like, yeah, it's very frequent. So I
Yeah.
agree with you.
Yeah. So let's talk about the roadmap of your growth of Authority Hacker. Because I personally think, like, one, I love the course business, but I personally think the niche you are in is actually a really hard business to make courses in because it's always changing.
Yeah.
So it's never ever great. So tell me about the roadblocks you and Mark faced as you were growing Authority Hacker.
First of all was entering the market, right? It's like basically it's make money online, a sub niche of make money online, let's just say, like if we were positioning it. It's competitive. There's lots of people you enter in, nobody knows about you, etc. So you've got to find a unique angle to tackle the market. The way we've done it with Authority Hacker actually is we have two courses, right? We have one called the Authority Site System, which is the beginner's one, how to start from nothing and have a site that achieves job replacement income. That's the stated goal of the course. And then we have Authority Hacker Pro, which is kind of like from there to like actually making it a proper bigger business, really. And then we have the Platinum, which is more of a mastermind. But what we did is we noticed that the beginners market was very crowded, like how to start making money online was very crowded, but the advanced side of things was underserved. Like there was almost no offering for like people who were already making more than 5 grand a month, let's say, and wanted to grow to 50. And so the first thing we did with the course business is we actually released the course that was focused on the advanced members because the market was weaker and there was very little competition there. And so what we allowed us to do is it allowed us to take some people, help them, because we were doing that with our agency as well. People were coming in. They were already making money at that point when they were hiring an agency, and we helped them scale higher. So it's like also was our comfort zone. And so we shared a bunch of growth tactics, etc. in that. And we got case studies from that, from people who went from like, making 2K a month to making 30K a month or something like that, or 40K a month or something. And it's like, we got a few cases like that. That built up our reputation, basically. And then from there, we launched the beginner's course. We regressed back in the market from the reputation we built so that the market would pay attention because of the case studies we have on the advanced side of things. So from the course perspective, that's how it was. And at the same time, we'd release like blog posts, etc., that would share some case studies, some stuff we've done, etc., so that it would build legitimacy, so that the people would buy the advanced course, basically. So that's pretty much how we tackled the market. That was just a way to sidestep the competition rather than going head on. And I think that did us a lot of good when we started, because I think if we started with the beginner segment, it would have been very difficult, actually.
Yeah, there's one thing you and Mark did. Digital Marketer actually did it as well, which I thought was really cool. So Digital Marketer used to have, I think it was a Survival Life as kind of like their case study, like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
look, our shit actually works. And you guys had the health stuff. I'm forgetting the name
Yeah,
of the website. I don't know if you
Health
still own it
Ambition
or not.
doesn't
Yeah,
do
Health
so well
Ambition.
these days, but
Yeah, not.
wrong
I
place,
mean,
wrong
hey,
time,
it
you
had,
know.
it had a good run, like what, almost 10 years at this point.
Yeah, yeah. It did good. Like we made a large profit on this side, but yeah, of course the medical data kind of like slaughtered a lot of the smaller sites in that
uh,
space.
Not to mention how
Unfortunate.
many
It's
copycats you probably
Yeah,
created
that's kind
by
of the
sharing.
that's kind of why we don't share sites anymore, because it's like now if I mention a niche, like there's like 15 sites that get started in that niche. And if we mention a site, then all the keywords get copied, and like the serves that were easy become difficult 6 months later. Not difficult, but like, you will go from like maybe sometime 1 to 3 or something like this. It really can affect your bottom line quite a lot in SEO. So it's like, yeah, but like it works at the beginning. If you want to draw attention, like basically case studies and like follow along case studies, etc., that stuff gets attention. Now that we're more established, I feel like it's more of a cheap trick. Like I think we don't need that to draw attention anymore. Like I focus more on like, rather than showing our success, I show the success of people that we help. Like I like the idea of some people are good at making money and we're good at making you money, you know? And the proof of that is not me showing my bank account. It's showing the bank account of the people that have paid us and done well themselves, you know? And for that, we rely less on these tricks, but to get in, it works, yeah.
Yeah, I just was listening to a podcast about a guy who bought a course business, and he said, like, yeah, it's going to be hard to transition this because, the person, the teacher, is the face of the business, as often they are. But he said that the goal was to basically feature the students and even have the student come on. Like, 'cause once you have
Mm-hmm.
like that flywheel of success, you don't need to go and build a health ambition where everyone
It
copies
makes
you as much.
your it makes your business more sellable as well, right? It's like if
It does.
you push yourself like less forward, like with Mark and I, like we're kind of like hosts, but we're not really trying to show how great we are most of the time on the Toy Hacker. We don't care about that. I don't care about the attention. I don't care about all of that. Like I care about the brand being strong. And I think, yeah, I think it's a much better approach. It's a much more scalable approach. If you want to take a step back one day, it's going to be a lot easier, etc. So it's like you can take some on your shoulders at the beginning, but I really like the idea of transferring that weight to the brand as early as possible so that the brand can survive without you, which at some point you want to be able to take a break and be like, you know what, I'm not here for this week's podcast, but it's fine. It's really not about me or it's not about that. It's about the values we've built through the brand and the content we've shared in the past that people resonate with, you know?
No, absolutely. When I first joined EF, there were Justin and Joe, the co-founders. They were telling me they had the Justin and Joe problem, where they were just the face of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, hey, we were like less than a 5-person company at that point, of course. But one of my big goals was to take that away to help them out with that, and I think I did. But then I ran into the mistake of where, oh no, now you only think of me, which like
Yeah.
which is also a problem. So now I have
Yeah. You
Nick on
still
the
want to
YouTube
be here.
channel. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's like it's as a founder, you want to be here, but you don't want to have to be here all the time. You know, I think like Tim Cook with Apple is a good example, right? He like opens the keynote, he closes it, and he's like letting other people present all the hard stuff. You know, like you kind of want to be that person in your company.
for sure. With your company, are you transitioning more and more towards that now? Like where you and Mark are kind
Um,
of less in the limelight? Is that the goal?
we're still there, and we're still gonna be there for a long time. But what we're doing is we're bringing talent from the community in now. So, for example, like our whole editorial team now has been rebooted like a few months ago. And the people we hire for content creation, they need to have made money building a website. All of them do actually. And it's like they have the experience, like it's all the CEAT stuff from Google as well if you want. But like what it does is like, before we publish a blog post, and I would like, no, I'm not gonna email that to a list because it's like they don't care. Like it's really to rank on Google and that's it. Whereas now we're getting to a point where I'm like, yeah, we're getting to like very close to like I'm going to be pushing these people forward. I'm going to push their personalities forward. And our goal is to kind of like use the community we have to actually push personalities forward and be a platform for that. And it's like, it might mean that there's a bit less of Mark and I, or it might mean that there's more content. We didn't really decide that yet. But yeah, it's like we want to mix personalities, and I'm not afraid to let people take the spotlight, basically. Like, it's just that it needs to match our standards of quality, which are pretty high. And it's quite difficult to find the right people, and quite like even the right people might not match it all the time. So it's a very long and tedious process.
You guys are obsessed with quality. Like, I don't know if I could even be your VA. I might
I don't know.
struggle. Maybe if I write
Talking
you
about
some
VA,
nice poetry.
ask me later, because I told you I had a secret for you that I would share on the podcast. And that's the VA answer, actually. I don't know if you saw, so if, to give some context to book this podcast, there was an email chain with me, Justin, some of the people in Empire Flippers, you, etc., right? And my VA answered the emails, right? So like answering like booking stuff, sending the links, etc. Well, actually, my VA on my email is actually GPT-4 that I trained and and answering all the emails for me. So whenever I open Gmail, all my emails have a pre-drafted response as my VA, including invite links to calls, telling people we're not interested, all that stuff. Basically, it does all of it. And I've actually like it's a big prompt inside Zapier and a GPT-4 connection, and it's like one of the applications I have for AI now is earning my time back. And I'm finding all these like I'm not trying to make another content writer because that's boring. Like everyone has a SEO content AI SEO content writer. But like things like that, like can AI become my VA? Can AI become like prepare my weekends or do things like that, etc., and start earning my time back? And it's working really, really well actually. It's like you can go back to that chain of email now and you'll see that the answers are pretty amazing. So yeah, maybe I don't need a VA. Sorry.
That is awesome. I'm assuming you're using some kind of like agent AI, like Auto GPT, to do that.
No, I'm just using GPT-4 with like a big system prompt on like my overall goals. Like, hey, I'm willing to trade time for this, but not for this. If you think someone is worth talking to, here are my invite calls. Here's the 15-minute call. Here's the 30-minute, like, the links, etc. So people can book. And then every time it messes up, I go and update the prompt basically, and it does a really good job actually. Like if you can write really big prompts because the answers are quite short, so you have 8,000 tokens, so
Like
you can really write like thousands of words of instructions, like
this,
a
this
full SOP
reminds
on being an assistant.
this reminds me of that time. This was years ago when we were first meeting. We like met, became friends, and then Justin started getting your guys' outreach email. It was like automated, and it just like
Yeah.
you like shared it with me. Oh, this is funny. And then it came again, and then again. He's like, "Greg, tell Gail to stop, stop sending me this. Sending me
Well,
this."
it's like yeah, it's like but now it's you can actually also plug AI into outreach emails, and it's amazing actually. Like
Oh, I
if you
bet it's way
can
better.
gather
Yeah.
some data, you can gather some data about people, or like find their about page, for example, extract that data, feed that to the AI, then uses that to craft an outreach email that finds some common ground and so on. Because you've prompted it with like everything that maybe like your interest, things like that, etc., that they can use on an angle. And it's like it does really good actually. So same like these are the kind of like AI usages now that we're playing with. These things will come to our training, but usually before we put these things in training, like we experiment with them for like 3 to 6 months or something. So these are like wild experiments right now that one day translate into something actionable to people. Some of it's going to fail, some is going to succeed. But yeah, I feel like AI writers are already overdone at this point. I'm thinking about what's next.
I
And
joked on LinkedIn the other day that the first jobs AI is going to replace is the other AI writers that are like super expensive.
yeah, yeah, I guess. I mean, yeah, it's really hard for people. The thing is, like, OpenAI's API adds so much value that as a software developer, like, it's hard to add more value than the API already does. And so justifying the cost, etc., becomes quite complicated for some companies. So
I'm sure we're going to dive into AI more, but I want to stay on track with
yeah, let's go
authority.
back to the courses. Let's go back to the
Because
courses.
you and I could
Sorry.
talk about AI forever, which I'm sure it'll come up again in this conversation. But I want to ask you with Authority Hacker, and we'll get into some SEO and affiliate questions here soon. But with Authority Hacker, your first course you sold was like $27. Is that right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
way back in the day?
it was a 5 videos course on how we really get really high opt-in rates with opt-in pop-ups because we felt it would move the needle for people. Like, you know, at the time it was working even better than now. Like we're at like 3-4% opt-in on like blog posts. So it's like even if a blog post get 100 visits per month, you get like 5 leads or something. That was quite valuable and that worked really well. Then on the top of that, I built a $300 course called Double Your Leads. That was all the other opt-in tactics that we had.
Double your leads.
And
The copywriting sounds similar to another title I know.
Is that like double your dating you're thinking
Yeah,
about?
double your dating. I'm
Yeah,
forgetting his name. I think his real name is
probably,
Brendan Pagan, like a famous copywriter
probably
guy.
at the time. Yeah, probably at the time that was inspired by that. But I think it's like, yeah, it worked quite well. So that's pretty much how we monetized Autohack at the beginning. We're like, hey, let's launch an MVP, $27 product, and then put that on our thank you page, make a basic sales page. Like people opted in for lead magnet or something like that. They land on the thank you page that was a sales page for a $27 product. And quite quickly, we were making like 3 to 5 sales a day, maybe. Like, it's not exactly like I would buy a Lambo with that money, but it was
Maybe
a
renting
sign of traction,
Lambos.
Yeah, maybe, but barely, you know.
Yeah, I want to ask you like your journey from there. So that 27, like one, I bring that up because I think a lot of people, if they have a content site where a course is feasible, they might look at Authority Hacker like, oh my God, that
Yeah,
is
it's a lot
a
of work.
ton
Yeah,
of work. But like that first one was like 5 videos, right? It's
it was
accomplishable
one
within a
week.
week. Yeah.
Yeah, I did. It was one week planning, shooting, editing, and then maybe 3, 4 days for like the sales page, funnel setup, etc. Like, it was still pretty basic, basically.
So over time, as you've grown, so you had started with that, and then I know there was a period where you were doing, I think, launches, then evergreen, and then you went back to launches, I believe.
We do both. We
You
do
do
both
both now,
launches and
like as a
everything.
hybrid. So talk to me about how your thinking of pricing and marketing and info course has changed over time, and where is it at today? Like what's working today as well?
I guess it depends on the niche, right? It's like for us, like people expect a financial return, so we can price pretty high. I hate the idea of fighting on pricing as well, like a fight on value. Like you won't beat Udemy's sales days where they have 75% off on $29 courses. So it's like there's no point fighting on that. It's more about building a loyal audience and then they'll be willing to pay whatever the price is that you're selling. I think that's really the key. So in terms of pricing, tends to be a good idea to charge more than you think you could. Like basically think about what you would charge and add 30% or 40% to that. And quite often you can get away with that. And it's like you will make less sales, right? There's elasticity of demand, but you will probably make more profit. And that's all that matters in the end. It's not really like it's number of students doesn't matter as much as like how much money your company makes. So yeah, but like if you're doing like a consumer product, like one thing to think about as well is ads, right? So ads are a really good way to sell courses. And so it's a nice to have and something that we don't have with Auto Hacker that we keep kicking ourselves for not having. It's kind of like an impulse buy product, something that's like not too expensive. And the only goal is to pay for the ad cost. So usually for consumer niches, that would be something between $7 and $79, something like this, right? Having some kind of product there and you can run ads to that sales page and the goal is just that the product pays for the ads, and then you just put up sales behind, and these are your profit, and or you have launches, right? So a company that does that really well is iPhone Photography School. Like I know them, and I know for a fact that they make many millions per year selling a course on how to take photos with your iPhone. So that's pretty like that's as consumer as it gets. And I think yeah, they have a front price of $39, and then they have upsells up to $200-300. And the front end funnel, like they spend 6 figures a month on ads to promote that $39 product, which grows that email list massively. They actually have a cool trick as well because on the ad landing page, when you land on the sales page, but when you click on the buy button, it actually captures your email before redirecting you to the checkout page. So that even if people don't buy, they're actually building their email list from the ad traffic. And then they're able to do subsequent launches without necessarily paying for the traffic again. And so like, yeah, if I was starting a company, I would focus on that. Like, what is the irresistible product I can sell between $7 and $79? And then what is the upsell I can put behind that will cost a few $100s? And then after that, work on the profit maximizer, which would be like $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 coaching, something like this. Like something that's like in our case, we have like an advanced mastermind where we have like live calls, etc. So tomorrow, for example, I'll have a call with that group, and it's like $6,000, I think, for people to join. And for now, it's that, but eventually we're gonna make it a subscription. Like it's because it was the beginning, but eventually it's gonna be a yearly sub. So like that's pretty much how you want to structure that. But I like to think of ads because that's the power of course businesses, right? Is you don't just have to rely on SEO traffic because you can afford ad traffic and you can afford affiliate traffic. And that really diversifies your traffic quite a lot. Builds stability. It anchors your business a lot more than just relying on one main traffic source.
For sure.
And that's realistic.
With those things you mentioned, like profit maximizer, for example, that's a old hat term in the make money online
Yeah.
niche. It works really, really well. Like Sam Ovens, I met him last year, and he was a very different person than what I was expecting. He looked like a death metal, like rock head. He had like
Okay.
super long hair, but a really cool dude, really nice. And he was
Really
telling
smart as
me,
well with his funnels.
yeah, he was telling me he basically stopped all of his course stuff except for his mastermind. That you pay
Mm-hmm.
a big price for. I think it's like, I want to say it's over 10K a year or something like that to be in. They meet up like
Okay.
4 times a year, and he was telling me that he has no plan for the mastermind. He goes in and he has like a ball that he holds or something like that. Or does he say he's like speaking like, "All right, guys, what do you all want to talk about?" That's up to
Okay,
you,
we
man.
prepare a bit more than that. Yeah, it's like we put a bit
Like,
more work than that, but yeah.
yeah, I mean, he's like famous enough and knows so much stuff that like it's probably insanely worth it because like he says like almost no one churns, so it must be really valuable for the people to
Yeah,
pay
yeah.
that price point. But I've always
It's the
wondered like
network
when
effect.
yeah, the network effect, exactly, which he's obsessed with, by the way. He would love the fact that you just said that. Like, how would that work though with like photography or another niche that isn't the make money online niche? Like, have you seen those profit maximizers work, and what kind of format do they usually take?
I mean, usually they'd be coaching, right? In photography, that'd be like a live workshop or something like that that people can attend, or just like Q&As. Like instead of doing one-on-one, you can do like small group Q&As. That's actually something we're adding to our beginners course probably at some point. We get like a lot of people want support as they build their first website. So we're adding like small group Q&A calls that people can essentially buy into with someone who has built a five-figure website before and can help them. So it will be us sometimes. We won't always be us, you know. And yeah, I mean, that's mostly that. But like usually for these kind of niches like B2C, etc., you scale a lot more on your cheaper products. Like you really have most of the bulk of your sales there. And then you have like, yeah, I think it's like workshops, like live stuff, because all the information is already online. Like you basically selling the organization when you sell the course. And then it's almost like you sell feedback when you sell the profit maximizer, right? You sell like taking a photo together, giving them live feedback, whatever. It could be remote as well, right? You could have coaching, for example, like for fitness, like look at notefitness.com, right? They sell kind of like coaches as a subscription that you call and you just send them videos and they make you like personalized meal plan, but you can chat with them, etc. You know, stuff like that. So like I think Nerd Fitness is a good example of that. They sell a high priced coaching subscription as a profit maximizer. So something like that. It's a service. Basically, you become a service company when you get to the top level, but the profit per customer is very high. You're not trying to convert everyone. You're trying to convert like, 5, 10% of your audience. And that can make like 40, 50% of your revenue, you know.
I think that's a really good framework to put it, that the maximizer is more or less feedback. I like that kind of
Mm-hmm.
mentality with it. As you're saying, another question popped in my head. So, as you and Mark have grown Authority Hacker, now you have these, I guess you'd call them coaches that are helping your community that have at least built a 5K a month site. What's the incentive for those guys to be working with you and Mark? Like, if they're
It's
building out
something
their
we're
own
still building, by the way.
business, what's up?
It's something we're still building, but like the incentive is we pay them, to be honest. Like we give them money to actually show. Like,
Not the ultimate incentive.
here's, here's a trick, guys. If you pay people, they actually tend to do things for you. You've
What
heard it here
madness are you
first, you
talking
know.
about, Gail?
No,
Well, I guess
it's like
so the reason why I ask, maybe will make the question more clear. Like, why would they want to spend time doing that? Like, yes, they get a paycheck, but with them being entrepreneurial, don't they want to just like keep going and building their own stuff? Or is it like part of it is the payment and helping other people? Like, how do you keep those guys
it's
motivated
kind of
when
a mix of everything, right? It's working with us as well, seeing how it works from the inside. It's like we have a pretty strong community, especially on the top level mastermind. Like the community is like amazing. People help each other all the time. They hop on calls with each other, etc. Like, it's really cool. So it's kind of like getting deeper into the community while making money, while also seeing how we work from the inside, while being able to like be on our Slack, have access to our Notion stuff. Like they learn quite a bit through that as well. I guess that fits their kind of like entrepreneurial side. And on the other side, we try to make it worth their while by paying them properly when they do an hour call or something. And it's like if you mix both, it's like for some people it makes sense, you know.
are they usually like more part time then, or are they working fully
It's
full
something we're
time?
still building, so it's like we're still negotiating on that. So it's
Still
like
don't know.
I can't really
Let's see how
tell
it
you.
works.
I can't exactly give you experience at this point. What I can tell you is like there's a few people that are interested that we're building that on, and it hasn't been too hard to find some people who are interested in that.
Very cool, man. What's your highest price course now?
The platinum community is $6,000.
$6,000. And do you have like a closer or a salesperson, or are you relying like completely on marketing for that?
Completely on marketing.
That is awesome.
Yeah, we don't have a single salesperson. It's like honestly, we probably should. We probably should have someone because it wouldn't be hard to like segment the people who are more likely to close based on like how many times they visit the shopping cart and things like that. Like it would be very easy to highlight that within the CRM. But at the same time, I also like, we have this kind of like casual feel to the brand. And I feel like if you have like a salesperson calling you, that's going to kill that as well. And that might like, for now, the sales are doing good. If sales numbers are dropping, we might try other things. But at this point, I just feel it's not really on brand to have a salesperson calling people. And marketing is doing well. So it's like, I'm not saying it won't change ever. I'm saying I like the idea of like the whole buying experience to be on brand with like what you feel when you listen to the podcast or when you watch our videos, etc. And so that means dropping the suits usually. And then salespeople are suits. So it's something I try to avoid.
Yeah. So like I operate when I was in the B2B and like marketing circles, and one of the most annoying practices, in my mind at least, is oh, there's this cool software I want to try out, but in order
Ah,
to try
yeah,
it, I need to talk to a salesperson. Like this is so much friction. Like I'm
I
not
know.
even going to look at the software again.
My first email is usually like, skip all of that, give me access to the software. I don't want to see your demo video. I don't want to see any of that. I just want access. It's very, and they still try to go through most of the time, which I drop it. Yeah, I think it's basically people being ashamed of their pricing. So they just try to schmooze you before they actually announce the price to you. But I think the software has this much value, they should just own it. Like we put the full price of like a 6K mastermind on the sales page. People buy it anyway.
There's this guy. I was just literally telling one of my friends last night about it because I think he is one of the funniest agency owners. This guy, Jeff Miller, I'm acquaintances with him, and he will run ads to get clients where he just like tells you upfront what the price is. And when
Hmm.
they click the ad, it's literally just a Canva ad that says like his niche, what they want, 750 a month starting off for Facebook ads. Then they get on the Calendly link and schedule a call with them. And most of these agencies, especially in the SMA space, they have these like insane like reverse offer
Hmm.
guarantees are wicked complex, you know. And
Yeah,
the client,
simplified.
yeah, the client is
I
just
tell
like,
people drop the glitter usually. Like people like the idea of being behind the scenes and being talked to like they're not idiots than trying to polish your sales message and look very professional. Like professional is now it's kind of like has been. Sounding professional now is basically you sound like ChatGPT. It's like you want to sound human. And it's like I think that the more you sound like we're talking now, the more people are gonna trust you, as opposed to
sure.
trying to be very polished in your appearance and the way you present things.
Well, the plot twist of that is I'm actually our friend Ben Starr's deep fake of Greg.
Oh wow, that was really good then.
He deepfaked my voice, man. I wrote that blog post in AI Just Kill Affiliate Marketing, and he didn't want to read it, so he took some of my YouTube videos and deepfaked me reading the entire blog post to him. And then he sent it to me. It sounded just like me. Anytime he wants to hang out, it was just a deep fake of my voice saying like you should hang out with Ben.
It's not the best though. This 11 Lab, right? It's like we looked at it because for every new customer, we actually send a video welcoming them, a personalized video. That gives a tip for the courses, by the way. It's like it really helps people kind of feel like we pay attention to the fact they bought the course. And we were looking at these technologies so that instead of having someone from the team doing them, it could be Mark and I doing it through AI. So we did all of that. We did the synthesia, we did voice virtualization, etc. But still, you could obviously say it's AI. And I feel like the value of this dropped massively as soon as you detect that. So it hasn't reached that point yet where I would use it commercially, actually.
I think the real hack of AI right now is using it for the memes. I saw
Yeah, yeah,
this,
I think so.
I saw this Dagoth like villain from Morrowind on Joe Rogan's a deep fake Joe Rogan podcast. So the like being
Yeah, yeah.
interviewed. Maybe buy
Yeah, it
Morrowind.
works.
It's like a 20-year-old game, you know. But I have one more authority hacker question, then I want to get into SEO because we're already talking about AI. I know we're bursting at the
Go,
seams
go,
to
go.
discuss it
Let's
more,
go.
but before we switch to the affiliate and SEO side of things, and maybe you don't know this, but what's the grand vision of Authority Hacker? Like, where do you and Mark want to take it one day? Do you guys want to sell it? Like, are you looking to go bigger? Or like, what's the plan?
I don't know. We'll see.
Nice. All
Like we
right,
kind
moving
of
on to
like
affiliate and SEO.
it's like we'll see. It's like we'll see how it goes. Like we're really just doing our best with it right now. We really want to like help people and build resources that's helpful to people. We have some like tactical direction which I'm not going to share because some competitors are going to listen to this. So I'm not going to share what the grand plan is. But in terms of like for us, I don't know. Like, I was listening to this audiobook called Buy Back Your Time recently. And one of the section was very interesting, was like, people try to work very hard to retire, and they imagine this amazing life today, they retire and they make their life shit in order to achieve that point, right? And most people kind of like, they don't feel anything when they reach that point. It feels kind of like emptiness. It doesn't matter. Whereas this guy was like, well, the better game is to try to just build a game that you're happy to keep playing again and again. It's like sometimes it means that your business is going to grow a bit slower because you don't maximize that, because you take care of other parts of your life at the same time and so on. But you can last much longer and eventually you'll still do better. And I think that resonated quite well with me, that part. And it's like, that's really what we're trying to do with Mark. So it's like, if I want to take the day off, I often do that. Like, I feel like I don't feel like it. You know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to go out, go to a park with my dog or something and enjoy time out, etc. And so for that reason, like, yeah, we're not really looking to get out ASAP or try to get the biggest payday or something, but rather we're still focused on our mission of like making the best resource for small publishers.
That's awesome, man. I agree with what that book. I haven't read the book, but I agree with what you're saying. I think that's more important. Like, I have definitely have seen people even in our space where they eschew even going to a movie or playing a game because like I'm not being productive. I'm like, well, dude, you're also telling me you're not being productive at like 2 a.m. at a bar right now with me. I'm
Exactly.
like, go play a
Exactly.
game. Relax, stop.
And
It's
it's
okay.
life is not just about being productive 24/7. It's like I don't think you're happy doing that. So it's more about like, and it's good because when you try to work super hard, I think you tend to do things that maybe don't move the needle as much as the 80/20 things that would. So the fact that you're forced to make decisions with your time, it probably makes you a better strategist for your company at the same time.
100%. There's a agency owner I know. He's a one man show, but he earns the most of any agency owner I personally know that I'd consider a friend.
Hmm.
And he's also the laziest person I know. Like, I've referred him so much business and he never accepts them. Like, he is
Replies.
extremely picky. He rejects them all. It's like, I'm like, why do you
Yeah.
keep rejecting these? Like, I only do things that I know I will win and it will only take me like 20 minutes to do with my Facebook ads agency.
I think that's a good way to do this actually. He
Yeah,
gets a lot, like,
100%.
yeah. It's the thing. It's like, do you want to wait till you're old to start living as well? It's like it's not going to be the best time of your life anyway.
For
So
sure.
it's like you probably want to take some of these kind of like prime time of your life to do these things as well. So like that ties into the goal for the company. Our goal is for now just to make it as good as we can, keep going. We're gonna get more into YouTube actually. That's definitely something that we're doing right now. We're building that new editorial team with people who actually have built sites that made money, etc. So they come from like first-hand experience, etc. We'll see how that goes. And these are pretty fun things to do actually. So we're happy to keep going.
I'm excited to see the evolution, my friend. Okay, well, with that, let's switch into some of the affiliate and SEO stuff so we can help the audience get to kind of a similar point of where you and Mark are, perhaps, with their site. So, if the audience listening out there is just beginning, outside of just buying tasks, of course, what are 3 to 5 core elements that they should be looking at with their first affiliate site? What do you suggest they focus on?
Niche selection is definitely like, that's the one decision that you make that's going to change everything. It doesn't matter if you do everything right. If you go into oversaturated niche or a niche where there's no demand, you're not going to make money. Like people are often shocked at how long the niche selection process is in the course. I think it's like 23 videos or something. Like it's
Yeah, it's
pretty
big.
long. But you go through everything, right? You go through the trends. I show a bunch of tactics on, like, for example, and I know you're not gonna like me sharing that one, but it is a good one. Reverse engineering marketplaces to find niches where people spend money, because if people spend money, they make money. So we do spend time. We show Flippa and Empire Flippers, but we also show Upwork and places where people buy content, pro blogger, etc., and reverse engineer the job offers to find what sites are behind, so that it tells you, well, if people are willing to spend this much on content, they're probably making money and so on. So like all these little tactics that people can follow. So niche selection, definitely spend triple the time that you think you should spend on this. Like spend like a month on this. Honestly, it's not a big deal. Don't start a site until you have the exact affiliate offers you're going to promote, a plan to exit affiliate marketing as well. Don't just do affiliate marketing forever, as we said. Like, think about it. Like, okay, if this niche is a good idea, like vacuum cleaner is a good idea, but how do I go past being as an affiliate, and how do I sell physical products, courses, services, coaching, anything, right? And so like maybe you would change your angle. So maybe you'd focus more on a site about just cleaning, for example, because in that aspect, you could making your own vacuum cleaners is difficult, but making kind of like innovative cleaning supplies, I don't think it's crazy to do that as an e-com eventually, for example. And so that could be something that you're looking at. Even if you never do it, it's a possibility to take that business in that direction. So I like this idea of like planning all these things. That's why in the planning, you also see me think about all these steps like, oh, is there info products? Is there physical products? Is there that, etc. And make a huge spreadsheet with all of that.
Yeah, I like.
The
Yeah,
second,
I'm
sorry.
sorry. Go. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, no, no. Go ahead. Go ahead. You told
I
me I
was just
talk
gonna
too
say
much on
like.
HR's podcast, so
Well, I wasn't gonna put that on publicly on the podcast, but Gail, you are talking a bit much right now, man.
go for it then.
Totally kidding. I was just gonna say I really like that because that's similar to the advice I give to people that I tell them think narrow to start with, but start with a foundation that can go broad. Like if you're thinking about like standing desk as your main niche, just a random product in front of me right now, like that could be where you start, but maybe your real site is all about home offices or whatever, like
Yeah.
something that's bigger. But
Even better, like home office, you can start a productivity course, like 100%. Like you could make a
yeah,
course on like building like, the home office lifestyle and kind of like get more done while having a life at the same time. I think it's a great promise in a course, for example.
and I'm assuming when you're teaching people niche selection, when they go to a beautiful, bountiful website such as Empire Flippers, you tell them, in fact, you should just buy one of these businesses. Is that right?
I mean, they could consider it, obviously. I mean, it takes them to the site, so it's like step one, you know.
You hear it here
But
first,
yeah,
everyone. Gail recommends everyone to buy a website.
it's. I mean, it depends if you have more time or money, really. Like for people who have
Yeah,
more time, it's better to build the site. For people who have more money than time, then they're probably better off just buying an existing site. And they educate themselves as they do their market research. So it's kind of like a good place to be when you're like evaluating niches to also check marketplaces if you are also considering buying a site. Like, you don't just look at the websites, but you also like broadly think about niches in
the
general and
industry as a whole.
businesses,
Yeah,
etc.
like I just did a live stream with guys over at Otis, ODYS, and I was telling them like I think the fastest way to like any real wealth creation is buying a business that's already profitable. But if you don't like have the capital, something like Otis is great, or like just buying a premium domain. Like once you know a little bit of SEO knowledge, it can take you very far very quick. So I'm a fan
Yeah.
of buying assets, whether they make money or not, as long as they have some power to them. But let's not get distracted on that. So with the 3 to 6 elements you just mentioned there, you've built a lot of sites. Do you have kind of like an
Mhm.
SOP at this point? Like you mentioned niche selection taking a month. Do you kind of have an SOP of how you and Mark are going out and building things from scratch?
I mean, that's pretty much task. Like that's pretty much what's in the auto-site system. Like that's the process. Like we have that spreadsheet. Like you just have a blank spreadsheet and you just kind of like score the niches and you get a score sheet of like, and then you can like comparatively like compare them with each other on different factors like monetization, traffic potential, competition, trends, like is it going up, is it going down, etc. And so like you put everything in one big spreadsheet and then you get to do attempt at comparing them. It's always more complicated than what you see on the spreadsheet. That's why we have a big note section as well. But yeah, that's pretty much it. It's like one process of scoring. I think there's like 20 criteria per niche or something to go through. So it's quite a bit. And then there's like an average score. And like we have a shortlisting process, like there's different modules. Like there's basically like, oh, let's check all the search stuff at once. Then let's check all the monetization stuff. And you kind of have these deal breakers, right? It's like, oh, if I can't find sites below the 35 ranking for commercial queries, for example, in that niche, then it's probably a no because it would take me a very long time before I start making any money from that. So like, you kind of have these deal breakers at each section and then you shortlist as you go. So you start with 20 niches and then you finish with like two or three. And then it's kind of like a debate you have with yourself and or your business partners.
Yeah. So I want to ask you about AI, but before I do, because I feel like AI is going to be more like what's going to happen in the future kind of question. I want to talk about the website you and Mark sold. So you guys sold a 6-figure website. I think it was like mid 6 figures, right? Something like that.
We sold several, so I don't know which one you're
Several.
talking
Okay.
about. It.
Oh, good, good. I was actually underneath the impression you had only sold one big 6-figure site, but now you've done
No,
several.
we sold several. We sold
Very good,
several.
very good.
So, what's the question about this?
So one that I'm aware of, at least, I believe you built it on a drop domain, right? Or expired
So we
domain, something
sold
like
one
that.
recently on an expired domain, but the other two, like mid six figures that we sold, they were actually on fresh domains, actually.
Okay, cool. This is actually perfect then. So because we mentioned Otis, and I think that is a great like solution to buy that if you don't have enough money to buy like a bigger site that's making money. Tell me about your experience of building on the fresh site that you sold versus the expired domain, and if you'd recommend the expired domain approach for a beginner, and if so, how.
Yeah, the expired domain thing is changing quite a bit, right? It's like before you could kind of like grab an expired domain and do anything on it. Now you really need to pick an expired domain that's quite close to like that used to be quite close topically, like the old site, to what you're gonna build next. Because the expired domains they may hit or fail. And it's like when they fail, they just act like a brand new domain. Basically, they kind of reset in Google's algorithm, whatever exists in Ahrefs is not really counted, and it still takes a year before it starts ranking, basically, which would be I mean, it doesn't always take a year to rank a site, but before you start getting good traffic on the site, it usually takes about a year. But when it hits an expired domain, you can rank within like 2, 3 months. You can start ranking for decent keywords, etc. And so that saves you like a good 9, 10 months of work. And the thing is like, if you buy a fresh domain and you were building the same links that you get on a good expired domain, it would probably cost you more than buying the expired domain. So there's an economy to be made here. You can actually save some money. It can be good, but the problem with expired domains is they often have terrible names. They don't sound like what you imagined your site would sound like when you had the idea for the business. So my recommendation with expired domains is actually to launch them on the expired domain, run them for like about a year, start getting decent traffic, etc., then rebrand. So you buy a $10 .com domain, and then you do a proper 3-1 redirect. You do that in the webmaster's console as well. You have the both properties under the same account, and you say use change address, etc. You make sure the redirects are done properly, and then eventually you can get the benefits of the expired domain and have a good brand. So if I buy an expired domain, I would recommend buying also a fresh.com domain that you know is going to be a rebrand one day, because 99% of the time the names are terrible and don't match exactly what you wanted. So yeah.
How was your experience between the two? Did you find the expired domain helped a lot to go fast versus like the ones that you started from
Saves you
scratch?
9 months more or less, I would say. Like, it's like saves you 9, 10 months, because a fresh domain will like really, there's that point where like you run it for a while and you see like barely any traffic, you see like 25 visits or something. And at some point, someday, it just decides to start ranking. It's like, and it takes about a year or something. Sometimes it takes 6 months, sometimes it takes a bit longer than a year. Whereas the expired domain, if it hits, which I'm very clear on that, the new site needs to be quite close topically to the old site was. It's not just about the domain metrics and the backlinks. If it hits, then you can rank within a few weeks the same way you would rank after a year on a fresh domain or so. And you will essentially regain a lot of the authority there was. So depending on your link building capacity, we're pretty good at link building. So, we can take a fresh domain and take it to DR 40, 50 after 1 year, which is probably the range of most drop domains that you buy, unless you spend lots of money or get very lucky, because finding a high DR domain in the niche you want, etc., can be a lot of work or a lot of weight. So like we're pretty good at that, so it's less of a hindrance for us. But if you're not good at link building, then it definitely can save you even more than that, because you're getting all these links basically. So it really depends on your link building capacity.
On link building, real quick, I want to ask you why you're selling too and get into AI. So we're running out of time, but I have too many questions for you, Gail. But with link building, just real quick, do you recommend people to pay for links or just build them naturally, or do you do a kind of a
Ah,
blend of the
that's a
two?
whole podcast. That's like
So give me a
that's like
TLDR that can easily be taken out of context for some reels later that you'll have to
so
justify.
paying for links is not really like it's not gonna get you really in trouble these days, but many paid links are shit and they won't move the needle. And the problem is not as much the ethics of paying for links as it is the market of paid links being complete garbage. And that's why we don't do it very much, but we're not against it, provided the right opportunity on a real site with real traffic, etc. But if you go through most sellers, you'll get links that like they will move the needle at the beginning, but they will kind of get discounted really quickly. And so
Yeah.
it's kind of like you get into that hamster wheel of like you need to replace the links that get discounted by new links, and you keep paying for links, and your traffic just stagnates forever. And so that's the risk with paid links. It's not that paid links are bad inherently; is that the market tends to sell low quality links when you pay for them.
Yeah. In my experience, they're one step away from like a weak version of a PBN network, typically like a link
Yeah,
farm. And I have
like
nothing wrong with PBNs, but yeah,
when a site sells one link, they sell 1,000 links, right? And it's
yeah,
like
exactly.
once you open that kind of worm, it's like you are not in the greatest company usually,
Right.
and then that's what will affect you. So it's more that problem. But if you have like a friend who has a website but wants $50 to put the link on your site, and you know they don't sell any other link, yeah, you probably can help your business. So it's like, yeah, I'm not against it ethically. I'm against it in terms of like the market just turns the sites to shit that sell links usually.
So with you selling these sites, I remember years ago you were, if I remember right, you were pretty against it because of the low multiples. Obviously, that has changed now quite a bit. But why did you sell? Like, why not keep growing it? What was the thesis behind exiting the businesses?
Resources. Like it's just like our team just can't do everything. Like we always have to make choices. And also there's this tipping point. You know, I mentioned like how it gets harder and harder to grow your organic traffic, like at the beginning where you can find these low hanging fruit keywords, etc. So like the case study you were mentioned, like that was this kind of like software site that we sold. That's exactly what happened. Like we had found several openings that were not tapped by the competition in a very high paying software market. And we had filled these openings. We were ranking number one for all the keywords pretty much. And the next step was like we wanted to be competitive in that niche. We had to drop Authority Hacker. We had to drop everything because our competitors were only on their site. And there's no way we could just do this on a whim as a project. I used to only work on Friday afternoon, you know. So so now it's like I had to give it more resources to take it to the next level. And it was really that you hit that tipping point where you're like, okay, do I commit to this or do I just cash out and then have better opportunities elsewhere? And that's why we cashed out because we had better opportunities elsewhere. And it's like it just made more sense to take the money and run. You know?
Get out of here. I often joke with people, but I say it like half seriously because I do believe there's a very big kernel of truth to this. Is that when you sell your first business, that's really the start of your business because of that liquidation event, that capital event, where it just opens up what I call the doors of possibilities. So you've sold several now. In your
Mm-hmm.
experience, has that capital injection sped up other aspects of your business, your growth? Like, tell me, what did that capital do for you?
To be honest, we are more limited by finding talent than we are by cash flow most of the time. So we can afford things, but we don't find anything that satisfies us to spend money on, basically. And or we are bottlenecked by something Mark and I need to do. And so that tends to be the problem. So the capital injections, they usually yielded just very nice dividends for Mark and I, and more than they have changed the course of the company, especially in the last few sales. Like the last site, we sold it in March this year, so it's not that long ago. And the money is still in the bank account. We haven't even touched it at this point. So
Well, if
it's
you
like,
want to touch it and send it my way, you let me know, Gail. I'm here to help you.
let me
If you need
consider that
a
offer.
pressure of starting from scratch, I'm here to help you out. I offer a service.
Let me consider it. Yeah, it's more of a talent thing, really. Like, it's more of a talent thing and like finding the projects where we will not necessarily need it ourselves, because quite often we're the bottlenecks with Mark and I, which is, it's a problem for a lot of founders. It's not just us. But what we tend to do now is just spend more money on the projects we do. For example, we just launched a free AI tool called BrandSnap.ai. And it basically allows you to find branded domain names. You just explain what your site is, and it finds you, like with AI, it brainstorms domain names, it checks if they're available, it checks the social handles if they're available, and it checks if there's a trademark against that domain. And so, like, you get a one-stop shop to just write what you want, and it just finds you the domains. And because like we have bigger budgets now, I was able to hire like a much better developer that could literally handle most of the projects, and we just had to do the marketing basically. So like we tend to just throw more money at these kind of projects than anything. And when we find quality, we go all in on that. So for example, this new editorial team, significantly more expensive than what we used to do. Yeah, that's what we use the money for basically. We kind of double down on the bigger stuff and try to outpace the competition much further than what Google expects in terms of quality, for example, to future-proof the business.
So, with everything that's going on, I guess we'll wrap it up talking a little bit about the future. With AI happening, with AI writers everywhere now, and people exploding off to the seams of that, and then Google, what they're doing, and of course,
Yeah.
Bing telling people to divorce their wives while having an existential crisis. Like, what do you think is the future of SEO? Do you think there is a shelf life? Like, are we approaching the end? Is the end nigh, Gail?
No, I don't think it's the end. I think it's the beginning of a big change for sure, but I don't think it's the end. I think there will be less traffic from SEO. I mean, I can tell you, look at the camera and say for sure the same traffic is gonna come to website with like a giant block of AI on top of the SERPs. Like that sounds a little crazy to say that. No, there will be less traffic. But I think, it's like you need to segment the traffic, right? It's like there's the people who don't really give a shit about what they're Googling. They're just typing it to get a quick answer. Now they go on websites, they read the article, they leave. They do nothing else. As a website that makes money with ads, it's a problem, right? Because these people make you money. But if you're a business that sells something, these people are just noise. Like they're just a dot in your analytics and they don't really matter too much to your business. Whereas the people who care about the topic probably won't be satisfied with a blob of AI answer on top of the sub. So the people who will hit your website, your conversion rate for like your traffic's probably going to drop and your conversion rate is probably going to shoot up at the same time, because these people that hit your website will be the people that are more likely to convert. So it's like, I'm not sure the revenue from SEO will drop, but the traffic will, I think, if that makes sense. And even for ads, right? It's quite possible that the ads RPM will adjust to that, which means as many people want to buy ads and there's less inventory of impressions in AdSense. What happens? Well, the prices go up, right? It's a bidding system. And so like it might adjust to that. So it's like the question, like I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen. What I can't tell you is how things are going to balance out, right? Like how much is traffic going to drop? How much are RPMs going to adjust to make up for that? How the conversion rate is going to change based on that? This I can't tell you because it really depends on so many factors. I don't think anyone can do that. But I think that's what's going to happen. Less traffic from SEO. Google is going to break search intent, I believe. I think search intent has destroyed Google. Google is a shit show right now. Anytime you Google something, it's terrible. And everyone knows it, everyone complains, and everyone adds Reddit at the end of their queries because that's the only way to get genuine answers. So they've already announced some stuff at Google I/O called Perspectives. They're going to have this little block with like where they're going to feature like social posts, also blog posts, they said, videos, stuff like that, to try to actually make it more human to contrast with the AI answer. But yeah, in general, I think sites will get less traffic, but I think conversion rate will shoot up and the conversions might be the same. Like if you're selling something, I think you'll be good. And if you're selling something, I think you can be in the answer from AI. Like if someone's Googling what is the best course for affiliate marketing, and then there's an AI answer on top, I'm hoping we and Madigity show up there basically, and then people can click on the link inside the AI answer because we have a product. Whereas if you only rely on ads, uh, I think the RPMs will adjust, but I don't know if they will adjust to completely make up for the traffic loss.
That makes sense. I think I mostly agree with you there. I actually think there's a short window that we're in right now that will be probably like 15 to 18 months where not everyone's caught up on AI and using AI. So people will really like double
No,
down on it. I think they could see their traffic go up actually, even though you're
it
right.
will
I
go
think,
up for a while, yeah.
yeah, per keyword, I think the traffic will go down, but because you're able to outproduce that, you're like, is a net gain. So I think people will probably make more money in SEO in the next 18 months rather than less. But long term, I think you are right. I think that is the correct perspective. Okay, man. Well, I only have time for one rapid fire question. It's the most important
All
question.
right.
So I need to make sure I ask it. If you do not answer this question well, I cannot publish this podcast. So no stress. Are you ready for the question?
I'll try to do my best. I
All right,
swear.
this is very important. This is what my audience is waiting for, Gail. Here it goes. What has been your funniest moment working in the SEO industry?
It's a hard question to think about. I've done plenty of. One time I was doing a live demo on the webinar showing how to build a website, etc. And I was editing the DNS live, which you should never do, by the way. And I crashed the entire website during the webinar, basically, because I put a typo. I think I put a comma instead of a full stop, or something like that in an IP, and like everything crashed, and then nobody could. Like I looked like an idiot, basically. So yeah, doing live demos, I tend to be quite famous for messing stuff up, and that's why I much prefer edited videos because I can catch my mistakes.
Did you recover by saying, like, even an idiot can make money doing this? This is why you
Yeah,
should
so it's not in this version of Task, but in the previous version, I literally let one of these videos where I literally crashed the site as well, like through editing some PHP file or something, just to show people it can happen and how to recover. So I let one of them because when people follow the videos, they might make the same mistake. So yeah, it's like when I do live demos, like I do make mistakes and it's very risky and I still go for it. I always do. And it's a terrible mistake. I should never do that.
I think one of my funniest moments with you was you and I were in Bali at this like beach club after a conference, and my wife was going through. I think you guys had just launched Taz, and she came up to you like, "So, Gail, do you promise me you're going to make me really rich if I go through this?" And you just like didn't know what to say, like, ah. Uh,
No. entrepreneurship is not exactly about guaranteed result, right? It's
Right.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's the same as like when people ask you like, oh, how long is it gonna take to get traffic? I'm like, well, it depends how much work you do, you know? It's like a lot of people expect that it's a measure of time, it's a measure of achievements. And it's like you can be a genius and do that in 2 weeks, or you can be very slow and do that in 2 years, you know?
Yeah, I always tell people, take as long as it takes. As long as you're taking massive, directionally correct action, it will usually work out in your favor in the long term, even if you make a ton of
Yeah,
mistakes along the way.
it might take longer than you think, but most people who persevere tend to succeed, yeah.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, I really appreciate you coming on. This has been a pleasure as always. We should get together and do it again sometime. But if someone wanted to connect with you or Mark, what's the best place for them to do that?
If they want to send us a message directly, I think Twitter is the best because my email is a war zone.
All auto
And
GPT.
you'll probably get a response as well. So Twitter is more likely I will read it. And otherwise, go on notaryhacker.com. We have a podcast as well. So if you listen to this podcast, you have another podcast. We have 312 episodes. So there's a few of them to go through. We do videos on YouTube and we have a free training on how to get started with websites on the homepage. So go on notaryhacker.com, put your email, and you get a free video training from us.
Excellent. Well, thanks for coming on, man.
Perfect. Thanks for having me.
There you have it. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it got you inspired at all the different things that are happening in this industry. And of course, if you just want to buy a highly profitable business, you can always go to empireflippers.com/marketplace, or maybe you want to make an exit of your highly profitable business, and you could go to empireflippers.com/sell your site. I've been your host, Greg. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you leave a review, give us a like, a follow, share it across social media. Talk to you all soon. See you on the next episode.